it just might be the greatest sports franchise in the history of sports. A place where legends are made, and there's always something to talk about. Get ready to immerse yourself in pinstripes. Start spreading the news, hosted by Paul Semendinger and E.J. Fagan, a couple of doctors with a prescription for Yankee fever. And now, here's Dr. Paul Semendinger and Dr. E.J. Fagan. Get ready to start spreading the news.
That's right. Let's get ready to start spreading the news. Hello, my friends. Let's make today a great day. How do you make your day great? Well, it's simple. You look for the good, you find the good, and you cherish it in your heart. When we find the good and cherish it in our hearts, we can't help but have great days. But sometimes people say, I can't find any good. There is no good to find. Well, then, my friends, I encourage you to do something nice. Make good yourself, and then there will be good. Once you find the good and you cherish it in your heart, spread it, give it away, be generous with kindness and happiness and love. Remember, when we give love, it comes back to us in greater amounts than we ever gave. Today, we are going to talk about the great Yankees start. They are 7-2. You really can't ask for more. 9 games, 7 wins. Let's go Yankees. But before we get to the Yankees, let's remind everyone that this great program is brought to you by Artemisia Publishing. Artemisia is a traditional publisher located in New Mexico in the good old USA. They publish a wide selection of books in a multitude of genres. They have so many award-winning books that they have published that you can't even count them all. I mean, maybe you can if you spent a lot of time, but there are a lot. So many, it's almost impossible to count. And among the great books they have published, of course, includes The Least Among Them, written by me. Roy White's From Compton to the Bronx, written with me. The highly motivational 365.2. The brand new Greatest New York Yankees by Uniform Number. And the greatest novel ever written, Scattering the Ashes. If you have not read Scattering the Ashes, your life, I hate to say it, is incomplete. You need to read Scattering the Ashes. So I'm not with EJ tonight because as I record this, I'm not home. And I'm going to be traveling and getting home. So rather than trying to work that all out with EJ, I said, let me just record the show myself. Remember, go to apbooks.net. And remember that you can find tons of Yankees content on startspreadingthenews.blog. We put up brand new articles every single day at 6 a.m., 10 a.m., and 2 p.m. Plus, there are game threads for every single game. Come to Start Spreading the News. Join in the chatter about the games. Read the great articles. There isn't a better Yankees site out there. We've actually been doing this since 2017. You think about the amount of articles that we have published. Amazing. And we have a fine staff of great writers. Of course, many articles written, of course, by myself as well. So the Yankees, as we said, are off to a great start. 7 wins, 2 losses. Their 2 losses were both close, too. They lost their 4th game of the year by the score of 2-1. And then they lost yesterday by the score of 7-6. So we're going to walk through a little of this, just go through the season, look at the game scores, look at some highlights, look at some concerns. But by and large, again, I don't think you could really expect or even hope for a better start than 7 wins and 2 losses. The Yankees began the season with 3 games in San Francisco. They won those games by the scores of 7-0, 3-0, and then 3-1. Imagine starting the season and giving up only one run. That's amazing. And that is the hope of this Yankee team. I think the hope is that the starting pitching becomes so dominant, or maybe I should say stays so dominant, that they almost are losing streak immune. One of the great problems with the Yankees these last many years, one of the problems with the Yankees during the Aaron Boone era, is they go through periods where they just can't do anything right. They play poor baseball. The manager makes poor baseball decisions. The GM doesn't necessarily address the weaknesses, and the medical staff seems to make bad decision after bad decision. All of this compounds to make a period of time during the season when the Yankees just cannot seem to do anything right. The hope, though, this year is that with the pitching staff, that they are Boone swoon proof. Now, I'm not sure if that's going to be the case, but it sure feels like it might be the case. Max Fried pitched yesterday, and it's a game they lost, but it wasn't Max Fried's problem. It wasn't his fault. It was the fault of the bullpen, which is the big concern for the team this year. But if you have Max Fried, who's proven himself now over the first 3 starts and all of last year when the Yankees brought him in, of course, as a big-time acquisition because he's a big-time pitcher. He's proven he can be the guy at the top of that rotation for the Yankees. Cam Schlittler is just looking terrific. Will Warren has looked pretty good. Luis Gil started the year in the minor leagues, but he's coming back. You start saying to yourself, this Yankee rotation just might be good enough to prevent any long losing streaks. And of course, like an old Western where the cavalry is just on the other side of the hill, the big hope is that the Yankees, over the course of this season, get 3 more very good 2 big-time pitchers to come back. Carlos Rodon, if he's on, is at worst a number 2. Clark Schmidt has proven that when he's healthy, he's a top pitcher. And one of the best pitchers in baseball, Garrett Cole, is on his way back. If those guys all come back, and if you combine them with the young talent they have in the rotation right now, and if a pitcher like Ryan Weathers actually figures it out, and maybe some of those good young pitchers in the minor leagues, if they can figure it out, that becomes a heck of a starting staff. I mean, if you have Cole, Rodon, Schlittler, Will Warren, and Luis Gil, let's just say those are who you end up with as your 5-man rotation. It's pretty hard to get into a long losing streak. And if one of those guys falter and you have some of these other pitchers, like maybe Clark Schmidt then jumps in and fills a gap, the Yankees just might be for real. Now, when they lost yesterday, they lost the final game against the Miami Marlins. They lost 7-6 to drop their record to 7-2. They lost because the bullpen, which one of Aaron Boone's concerns about Aaron Boone, one of his faults, one of the worries people have with Aaron Boone as the manager, is that he overuses his bullpen and they get worn out. This is nothing new. And the bullpen in the 9th game of the year was worn out yesterday. And they couldn't go to some of their top pitchers. And because they couldn't go to some of their top pitchers, they had to go to their secondary relievers. And their secondary relievers could not hold a lead. The frustrating thing was they couldn't throw strikes. Jake Bird came in and pitched like he did last year after they acquired him and was just all over the place. And, you know, if you can't throw strikes, when you finally throw a strike, it's usually very hittable. And that's what happened. And the Yankees fell behind. They mounted a rally. They had the tying and winning runs on base in the bottom of the 9th, but they fell short. I did think that it was interesting. The only lefty batter they had left at the end of the game yesterday was J.C. Escarra, who doesn't have a hit this year. And he didn't hit last year. I don't think most people see J.C. Escarra as a threat with the bat, and yet they sent him up in a game-winning situation, 2 on, 2 out, bottom of the 9th, down by a run, and he struck out. Now, he was a left-handed batter, and it was a right-handed pitcher, but the Yankees still had some right-handed bats on the bench. And, you know, sometimes you say, well, you got to keep it lefty-righty, and that kind of thing. And I get it. You want to play the percentages, but if you're going to a guy who's not really known for hitting, it's a stretch to say, yeah, let's go to this guy and hope he delivers the game-winning or the game-tying hit. Oh, but again, not much to complain about. The team is 7-2. And while a lot of the players at the bottom of the lineup aren't really hitting, in fact, up and down the lineup, a lot of guys aren't hitting, the Yankees are still getting by and scoring runs. I mean, they had 6 yesterday, 9 the day before, 8 the day before, 5 before that, 5 before that. Then they lost that game 2-1. And in the 3 games before that, they scored 7, 3, and 3 runs. Now, I'd say 3 isn't the greatest, but 9 games in, you have a game where you've scored 7. You have 2 games where you've scored 5. You have a game where you've scored 6. You have a game where you've scored 8. And you have a game where you've scored 9. Those are good numbers. And again, let me just go back here. I'm looking at Baseball Reference here. Let me just go back to the Yankees statistics. They are updated on Baseball Reference. I mean, look at these guys. Austin Wells is batting $167. That's not good. Jazz Chisholm's hitting $194. That's not good. Jose Caballero's hitting $129. That's not good. Ryan McMahon is hitting $0.87. That's not good. Trent Grisham is hitting $172. Oh my goodness. How many guys on that team aren't hitting at all? That's a lot. Your catcher, your second baseman, your shortstop, your third baseman, and your center fielder. Aaron Judge hitting only $250. Not terrible. Cody Bellinger hitting only $267. Not terrible. The guys carrying the offense so far, Ben Rice, $370, leads the American League in runs batted in with 11. He also has 3 home runs. And Giancarlo Stanton off to a torrid start, hitting $394 with 1 home run. Boy. So there they are. The Yankees scoring runs in bunches while still not really having most of their lineup producing. So it comes down to the pitching. That's starting pitching. And if the Yankees starting pitching can do what it can and what it should, the Yankees should have themselves a pretty good season. This might be the year, because of the strength of their starting pitching, that they are able to avoid the big slump. Now, I haven't made a big announcement about this, but there's a new network that grew out of the old Northeast Streaming Sports Network, which then became the National Sports Network. And it's now called the McGrath Sports Network. And we begin and end the shows with a little commercial for that network. But I would like to give that 45-second plug here for you to check out all of the great programs that are on this brand new sports network. Take a look. All right, so that is the McGrath Podcast Network. I also have given short shrift to my brand new Yankee book, The Greatest New York Yankees by Uniform Number. And I would like to just highlight one of the many articles in that book, do a little book sharing with you today, and talk about one of the most unique numbers in Yankees history. And that is the uniform number 8. And what's going to follow is a reading from the chapter on the uniform number 8 in the book. Now, this book, and I'm getting so many rave reviews, so many people are telling me I've loved this, Paul. What a book. This is really just so engaging. And one of the wonderful things about the book is it goes right into the heart of what we do as sports fans. We discuss and we debate. And so what I've done in this book is I've counted down from 99 all the way down to 0, highlighting each of the greatest Yankees to wear that uniform number. I thought it would be fun to start at 99 and count down to 0. The unique thing about number 8 in Yankees history is number 8 has been retired twice. Number 8 was retired for Yogi Berra, and at the same time, the Yankees retired it for another great catcher, Bill Dickey. So Bill Dickey and Yogi Berra both wore the same number. And when the Yankees retired it for the one catcher, Berra, they retired it for the great catcher who preceded him, Bill Dickey. And in the book, what my task was and is to make the argument why one or the other of those two players is better. Here's the thing. Bill Dickey has been largely forgotten. He was a phenomenal catcher. And some people still rate him as the greatest Yankees catcher of all time. But Yogi Berra has captured America's imagination. Yogi was a character. Yogi was bigger than life. Yogi said a lot of fun and funny things. And Yogi is more recent. So when I talk to people about the book and I mention Bill Dickey and Yogi Berra, a lot of people say, well, the greatest Yankee catcher was obviously Berra. And they say that not knowing how great Bill Dickey was. So again, my task then is to determine, using evidence, which of those two catchers was actually the greatest Yankee while wearing number 8. And so what I'd like to do is just read a little of the book, the chapter on uniform number 8. Only 5 Yankees wore number 8. 4 of those 5 were catchers: Johnny Grabowski, Bill Dickey, Aaron Robinson, and Yogi Berra. The only non-Yankee to wear uniform number 8 was outfielder Johnny Lindell. Now, if we had time, and maybe we'll do this someday, Johnny Lindell is one of these guys who's been largely forgotten. He played mostly in the 1940s. He was a Yankee outfielder, and then he came back later in his career and pitched in the National League. I believe, without looking it up, this is off the top of my head, he pitched for the Phillies and the Pirates, I believe. But how many guys have done that? Have had 2 different careers, one as a hitting outfielder and the other as a pitcher. Johnny Lindell is one of those guys, and he deserves a deeper dive someday. But he doesn't get a deeper dive today, because today we're focusing on the question of who was better, Bill Dickey or Yogi Berra. Today, uniform number 8, this is from the book, is retired for both Bill Dickey and Yogi Berra, the 2 greatest catchers in the history of the Yankees. Both players are in Monument Park, and both are in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Bill Dickey, when he first came up, wore uniform number 10 in 1929, his rookie season. But then he wore number 8 from 1930 until the end of his career, played entirely with the Yankees in 1946. Of note, in 1944 and 1945, Bill Dickey served the American country in our military during World War II. Now, here you go. Over the course of his career, Bill Dickey batted over 300 11 times. He was also an 11-time All-Star. The Yankees went to 8 World Series with Bill Dickey as their catcher, winning 7. Everybody remembers Yogi's 10 rings. Well, Bill Dickey has 7. That's not that far off. They won 7 of 8 World Series. That's crazy. For his career, Bill Dickey batted .313. He had 202 home runs and 1,209 runs batted in. Bill Dickey's batting average of .313 is the 5th highest in the history of the New York Yankees. Drawing a picture here, right? Bill Dickey was a great, great baseball player, and it's a shame that he's been largely forgotten and overshadowed. Over the course of his career, Bill Dickey earned 56.4 WAR. Now, the catcher who succeeded him, who Bill Dickey actually helped become a great catcher, was Yogi Berra. And Yogi Berra was the Yankees catcher from 1946 to 1963. Of note, in 1944 and 1945, before he became a big leaguer, Yogi Berra served in the war effort. Yogi Berra actually served at D-Day during the Allied invasion of Europe on June 6, 1944. Yogi was there. That's amazing. Yogi wore uniform number 8 until the end of his career, after first wearing uniform numbers 38 and 35. Now, Berra was an 18-time All-Star, the second highest in Yankees history. The only Yankee who has been or was to more All-Star games was Mickey Mantle, who had 20. Yogi Berra won 3 American League MVP awards. And Berra's team went to 14 World Series. And as we said, he was a world champion 10 times. No player has ever been on more World Series winning teams than Yogi Berra. As a Yankee, Berra batted .285 with 358 home runs and 1,430 RBIs. When he retired, no catcher had ever hit more home runs than Yogi, and Yogi's lifetime WAR as a Yankee was 59.7. Now, a quick note, some of these numbers, like OPS plus, which I haven't mentioned yet, in WAR, actually get normalized over time. So one of the great, I wouldn't call it a frustration, but it was kind of frustrating, was I had the book ready to go a year ago before the 2025 season. And we decided that we would hold it off till this year to include the 2025 season with all the statistics and the history and different players and more uniform numbers and more things to discuss and write about. All of that was good and great and wonderful. But one of the great frustrations was I had to wait till 2025 ended to do the big revision to get the book ready for its 2026 release. And I had to revisit all of the statistics. Now, the counting stats I had right, those are easy. That's not really ever going to change. But some of the numbers, like WAR, get normalized. And they get recalculated, at least on Baseball Reference they do. And the numbers are different from certain times to certain times. I guess at the end of each season, they recalculate and renormalize some of these things. And so one of the great frustrations was, like, some of these players, their WAR might have been 27.4 when I wrote the book. And then when I went back, it was 27.3 or 28.1 or whatever. They're so close, but I had to make sure that those numbers were accurate. Now, in the book, I give a chart and I compare each of the two players, Bill Dickey and Yogi Berra. Berra played in more games, 2,116, compared to Dickey, who played 1,789. Dickey had the better lifetime batting average. He hit 313. Berra hit 285. Berra had more home runs, 358 to 202. Berra also had more runs batted in, 1,430 compared to 1,209. Berra, as we noted, was an all-star 18 times, Dickey 11. Berra went to 14 World Series. Dickey went to, didn't I say 8? Or did I say 9? 8. Very similar. Berra's WAR, 59.7. Dickey's WAR was 56.4. That's closer than a lot of people might think. OPS plus, Bill Dickey actually was slightly higher than Yogi Berra. Dickey's OPS plus was 127 compared to Berra's 125. Now, statistically, that's even. Over time, normalized over thousands of games, 127 and 125 is basically the same number. But I share all this just, again, to illustrate what a great player Bill Dickey was. It's not a slam dunk that Yogi was actually better. This is the way I conclude the article. It seems that in almost every case, as great as Bill Dickey was, Yogi Berra was slightly better. Bill Dickey was the starting catcher on the Yankees from 1936 to 1939 on a team that won 4 consecutive World Series. But Yogi was the starting catcher on the teams from 1949 to 1953 when the Yankees won 5 World Series. In the end, the greatest Yankee in uniform number 8 was Yogi Berra. All right, let's do a little preview then of what's coming as we said, a chance of doing a heck of a lot better in the coming games. Their next 3 games, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, are home against the Athletics. Would it be a surprise if the Yankees won all 3? I don't think it would be. In fact, I think if the Yankees don't win all 3, and if they only win 2 out of 3, it'll be somewhat of a disappointment. Following that, the Yankees play the Tampa Bay Rays on the road in Tampa Bay. But of course, those road games are actually at the Yankees spring training complex. So the road games that feel kind of at home. Then they head back home and they play the Los Angeles Angels for before heading to Boston against the Red Sox. Those 3 games in Boston will be April 21, April 22, and April 23. Now, the Red Sox are off to a horrific start, and they're starting to already hear it. And that could be a pivotal series early in the year for both teams. If the Yankees, who don't necessarily have a tough schedule heading before those games in Boston, if the Yankees continue to roll and keep winning 7 out of every 9 games, or 6 out of every 9 games even, oh my goodness, they could build up a substantial early season cushion that even if they have the swoon, may make it so that the swoon doesn't necessarily destroy their whole year. But I'm going to stay confident. I'm going to stay confident and say, you know what? The way they look, absent of the bullpen, the way they look right now makes me say that they just might be good enough to run this thing from start to finish and have a great year. I reserve the right to be disappointed because the Yankees disappoint me year in and year out. It's kind of what they do. But after 9 games, I'm going to remain cautiously and hopefully optimistic. All right, little truncated this afternoon, this evening when you're watching it. Thank you for watching. This has been the Start Spreading the News podcast and the Dr. Sem Yankee Show. Again, next Monday night, I should be live with EJ. Everything should be back to normal, back to regular routines. Catch the Dr. Sem Yankee Show also on Saturday mornings at 7 a.m. Thank you for watching.